Hello, and thank you for joining us for tonight's Let's Chat, Embracing the Journey Natural Hair. I'm going to go ahead and bring up our two guests for today, Nicole Pillow Johnson and Chantail Williams. Thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us, Shayla.
Yes. And so I wanted to have this conversation. This is a conversation I've wanted to have for a long time. And I'm so excited to bring together two dynamic people like Chantel and Nicole to share this space. For myself, Nicole, Chantel, you were instrumental in my journey to embracing my natural hair. And Nicole, you are a new friend that I've made along this journey to living my most authentic life. Before we get going, I want to start with you, Chantel, and then we'll go to you, Nicole, and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll launch into our conversation from there.
Sure. Thank you once again, Shayla, for having me. I am Chantail Williams of Tampa, Florida. I am the owner of Natural Glam Boutique and Classic Hair Therapy, and I'm known as the online hair therapist on Instagram. So I'm just, really excited to have this conversation because it has definitely been such a movement with natural hair and women returning to natural. So Shayla, we, met due to hair and other things related to just embracing who we are. So I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you for having me, Shayla.
All right. Thank you so much, Chantel. And now I want to go to Nicole. Nicole, tell us a little bit about your journey to embracing your natural hair as well.
Yes, well, my name is Nicole Pillow Johnson, and I am the owner of the Inner Beauty Project, a transformational speaker and empowerment coach. I will just say that my journey to embracing my natural hair has played a very transformational role in my own life. And for me, Shayla, the journey goes really way back, quite frankly, to childhood, which is actually where I guess I dive right in to say the struggle began, because I was born with this natural, crown of glory that I like to refer to, this God-given hair. And yet it was the thing that caused me, I'd say, the most pain. And I recall just being met daily with challenges of messaging, of false labels from my own peers very young that communicated that I just simply didn't fit in the way that I was because of this hair.
And really, Chantel, that's a story you probably hear a lot in your chair when people come in to decide, to do the big chop, which a big chop, can you explain what that kind of is? And it's really an emotional journey and experience for people to make that decision to wear their hair as it is, as it grows out of their head.
Right. So this experience called the big chop is really just allowing your natural hair to come in without relaxing. It is, however, we notice that there are so many people who choose to transition instead of doing the big chop. But, it can be very emotional just letting go of everything that you once knew about your hair. So I think this big chop has gotten so much just, I would say over the last few years, people have embraced it. People have started new journeys. It's changed people's lives. I mean, the big chop is something that everyone has to decide to do or not to do. It's two ways to pretty much return to natural. You either big chop or you just transition. But in any event, removing those ends of relaxed hair is really a big deal for a lot of people that I have seen. So.
And that means if you've been treating your hair with chemicals over the years, it's the decision to just chop off all of that chemically treated hair and start anew, start fresh. And so much of how we live and exist in the world is tied to our hair. And the decision to wear the hair that grows out of your head is definitely an emotional one. Nicole, I know you touched on that. And for much of your career, as with myself, I know you always kind of felt that your hair was tied to how far you could go, your success. You needed to maintain a certain look to get to a certain level or a certain status. I'll share a picture here in just a moment. Nicole, actually, we met since I moved to the Twin Cities, but Nicole is sort of a fixture in my childhood, and I had no idea that she lived here. Nicole was a commentator for the Ebony Fashion Fair, and if some of you remember that at all growing up, it would travel around the United States, and it would just be the most amazing, beautiful fashion, and a chance for someone like myself and many other little girls to see people who look like us on that stage. And one of the people on the stage during my childhood was Nicole. And who knows how life comes together and you connect with people in unexpected ways later in life. So Nicole, if you could talk a little bit about what your journey was, and I'll share some of the pictures that you sent me of your time before you decided to embrace your natural hair.
Yeah. Well, kind of the interesting thing about this journey is that, my dad was a hairstylist and he's retired and just very, very well known for black hair care here in the Twin Cities in St. Paul, Minneapolis. And but very young, I used to beg my father, like, please, straighten my hair. I wanted to match what I felt what was being communicated to me as what's beautiful, what's acceptable. And so I say all that to say is that getting my hair straightened started from very, very young. And even though and asking for perms, and I remember him being very resistant, but I literally would sit in my tears, and so all that to say is that straight hair followed me into my journey as a young girl, into my adolescence, teenager, and then into my adult career. And to your point, Shayla, it is little did I know that my hair had intersected with my identity. It had intersected with what I believed I needed to be to actually hold these positions and to be seen the way that I was celebrated as such. And so for me, it was very deeply rooted. This did not, to Chantail, to your point, I tell you, this transition was one of the hardest things I've ever went through, because I've spent the majority of my life, I've only lived in my natural hair for the last, I'm going to say 3 years. That transition was very emotional. And while I didn't have chemicals at the time of my transition, I didn't necessarily have to do the big chop, but I tell you what, I had been straightening it to the point that you would have thought I had chemicals, because I just knew how to work it, and then added the extra to help. And so I say all that to say is that I was locked in. I was definitely locked in. And it wasn't actually until I transitioned, until I embraced going into the walking through the anxiety, walking through what it took for me to literally reconnect with my own God-given beauty, that I realized how connected I was. I did not know that. You couldn't have told me that it would be that emotional of a shift.
And Chantail, when you hear Nicole say that, what comes to mind for you? As a hairstylist, you have a lot of people who sit in your seat and share their stories. Are stories like this stories you've heard before?
Oh, Shayla, yes. And Nicole, I want to say your hair is gorgeous, by the way. And so much so, women sit in my chair, they're like, should I do this? I don't know if I'll be accepted. I don't know if my, boss will like it. I don't know if my husband will like it. I don't know if my kids will like it. I don't know if I'll like it. And we're talking about our own hair that grows out of our bodies. So, it's really unique, and we've been so conditioned, throughout life to think, hey, this is right because this is straight. And when you learn that that's not necessarily true, being able to say, I want to do that, it really takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of digging and researching and looking for answers as you try to discover, what to do with it. And when people sit in my chair, I always remind them of how, number one, it's yours, right? It's not a trend because this is your hair. So when we can embrace that by the support I provide, it really helps people be able to be in touch with the transition that they're going to make. They're able to stand in front of family, even and friends, and say, this is my hair. This is how I choose to wear it. For the longest time, I know when I
Oops, I'm sorry.
new
We lost her.
lifestyle. And this is my fourth big chop, by the way. I did 4 of them, yes.
Oh, wow.
Because of the pitfalls, but that's a whole nother topic. But I remember, family and friends asking me, are you sure? I prefer your straight hair, only because that's what they were used to. So I would say, when you see these women, coming in and out, and I see people crying in my chair, I see it all. I move at their pace, and just it's really important to remind them, of what they're doing is giving someone else permission to wear it as well. So, yeah.
And coming out of that, Nicole, out of your journey, you launched an inner beauty project where you help other people learn to embrace the authenticity, the reality of who they are when they take away everything that they think they're supposed to be or that the world says that they should be, and they really seek to get to the core of who they are. Your hair journey has led you to this work.
Oh, okay, Shayla, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I think the part that doesn't meet the eye is that I actually was already with this vision for the Inner Beauty Project, and already, hosting events and living into it. However, here's the interesting part. When I went through the transition to my natural hair, that was one of the, I guess you'd say it was the final layer that would really allow me to step fully into this vision and live it authentically. So here I am standing on stages and speaking into the hearts of women and holding workshops, and yet I wasn't fully living it. And it wasn't until really, if I can give you the real of it, I was on a drive back from a weekend at a cabin, and my friend who was hosting me, she owns a beautiful hair salon here in the Twin Cities, Gem Spa and Salon. And anyway, she was hosting me, and she had these new products, and she said, "Nicole, I just want to try these products on a couple different hair types." And I thought, "Oh gosh, no, please don't ask this of me," right? I'm thinking that, and so I go forward with it, and she sees me in my natural hair, and she said, "Why are we not doing this?" And I go, "Why? What do you mean?" She goes, "This is your hair." And I said, "Why would I ever do this? Why would I ever do this?" And there was something in that moment that just dropped in my spirit that said, "Can you hear yourself? Wait a minute, what's happening?" So on the drive home from the cabin, all I could think about was, I just need to get home, get my hair straight, because Monday's coming. It's Sunday. I got till tomorrow morning to get it straight and right so I can show up to work. And in that drive, that is when I had, like they call it a moment. It was like a moment of just a revelation. And I remember trying to reason with God. And I said, "You could have anything but this hair. Don't ask this of me." And he said, "If you are going to have the authority to do this type of work, you're going to have to live it fully. And you tell people that they are one of a kind and uniquely made. And so what does that look like for you to live in them?" And I remember it was this surrender of like, okay, if you're telling me that this is what I have to do in order to truly step into into my calling, not just a great idea, but my calling, then I will do it. But I'm going to tell you what, I did it with anxiety and fear and working through. I can't even tell you what it took for me to show up on Monday. Mm-hmm. And more than that, to Chantail, I wanted to say to you is, you can already see it coming, but I never knew I was going to be celebrated for this. I never knew I was going to walk down the street and somebody would say to me, "Oh my God, your hair is so beautiful." I didn't even know how to take it. It took me months to even know how to be okay when somebody would compliment me. I can feel myself getting emotional now. That was a real transition.
And I can really connect with what you're saying when you talk about the fear, because so much of how we live, and how we move in the world, and how we operate, there's so much of it that's tied to the hair that grows out of our head, and so much of the conversation and the language is centered around, for some reason, there's something wrong with the hair that grows out of our head. So we spend lots of money trying to add extensions, trying to do all kinds of things to get ourselves as close to what we think we need to be, when at the end of the day, you do all of this work and you find you just need to be more of who you are. And Chantel and I could kind of share a little bit of my journey. I'll share a picture here. For most of my hair journey or television career, I wore hair extensions, and I would usually get my hair braided and get the extensions sewn in. Well, what happened was, after doing that for so many years, it put a lot of stress on my edges. And so I will show you kind of when I left college, I graduated and then moved on. My hair looked like, let's see if I can get this picture up for you. Bear with me in my technology. Here we go. Okay, so the picture in the top towards the left, that was me when I finished college in 2006. And so I had been putting a lot of heat on my hair. I'd been doing the extensions then. I continued to do them afterwards. And part of why I did the extensions there was a couple of reasons. First, I felt that I needed to maintain a certain look for television. And I always wanted to protect my hair, and I was scared to wear my hair out. I was always worried, if I'm on this long morning show, how am I going to maintain this look for an extended period of time? And so for many years, I counted on wigs and hair extensions to do that. I'll show you this picture here. What you're looking at on the left with the patterned shirt, that's a wig. And then what you're looking at on the right is my actual hair. And so for most of my career, I felt that my hair, I needed to hide it. It was going to poof up if I was outside. And this is out of convenience's sake, this is what I'm going to do. But in an effort to protect the hair growing out of my head, I started to experience some thinning and damage around the edges. And so I got to a place in my hair journey where I had to decide, okay, right now for me, wearing a wig is a choice. And I had to decide, do I still want it to be a choice if I do this or not? Or do I want wearing a wig to be something I have to do that is no longer a choice for me? And so Chantel and I connected at the best time because we were both going through a period of transition. She was trying to find the right education and teaching job. And then I was on this journey of trying to learn how to care for the hair that grows out of my head. And just believe it or not, I mean, I spent most of my life going to the hair salon, and just the idea of trying to do my hair myself, it was pretty scary to me. And so to have someone come into your life at that time that is passionate about the thing that you really know nothing about, that connection could not have happened at a better time. And I decided for myself that I don't want wearing a wig to not be a choice for me. I want to learn how to take care of the hair that grows out of my head. I don't want to be in this position where I'm so committed to a look that I literally destroy the crown I already have. And so for me and Chantel, having the courage to do that transition for television, and I'll show you some of those pictures here in just a second, part of my finding the courage to be able to do that was having Chantel around to help. And I knew that there was some support in the process. This picture that I'll show you here in a second, this was when she did my hair the first time that I anchored with curly hair on television in Florida. And so that was very emotional. Chantel came to the studio, and we had not seen anyone else in the market do that. So that was, just something that we both really enjoyed and celebrated. But as I worked with Chantel, I continued to see my hair grow because the process and the maintenance of it improved because I wasn't putting as much heat on my hair anymore. And then what I also learned about myself at that time, most of my career, I sort of felt like I needed to have a certain look, or my hair needed to be a certain way, and as if my actual skill was tied to that. And it seems really crazy to think about it, but there was so much pressure and attention to the look that once I changed my look, it was like I realized for myself, wait, I'm still the great reporter that I have always been. I'm still the great journalist that I have always been. And I had to get to a place where I could see all those things that were always true for me. And once I was able to see those things and see that truth for me, then I could realize finally, hey, all this pressure that I've been putting on myself, I am actually more than my hair. And it may seem crazy that it's like, well, of course you're always not just your hair, but that just shows and is a testament to the power and the strength that the pressures that you feel from society, from the world, that they have on how you perceive yourself and how you move and operate in the world. And so I had to see for myself that I, as myself, with the hair that grew out of my head, was enough. My skill didn't change when I changed my hair. I still got up, did my job just as well as I did with straight hair. But I had to see that for myself. And a byproduct of all of that also was the fact that I started to get some messages from parents, grandparents, people saying, like, my granddaughter, my niece, my whoever wakes up in the morning to see you because they could turn the TV on and see someone that looked like them on television and know, hey, she's wearing her hair just like me, and that's okay. And so it kind of heightens the importance and the value of those moments, because you realize that when you're in that space, there are kids that don't always see people who look like them occupying space, the spaces that we do. And just to be able to occupy that space with the hair that grows out of your head says, hey, I can hold my head up a little bit higher and wear my crown on my head straight because I know that, hey, there's somebody out there that looks like me that's winning and doing it too. Chantel, I know I've been talking for a bit, but if you could add to kind of our journey and our experience.
Oh my goodness.
It was emotional for both of us, I think.
It was so special. I was at a place, when I was deciding, hey, should I return to the classroom? Should I continue doing what I love? There was always this tug of war. And so, when we met at the fashion show, and, right away it was like an instant click, connection. And, when you sat in my chair, it was just like a no-brainer. Like, you have all this hair underneath, all this hair. Let's do this. And I just remember your face. Your face was kind of like, let's taste this out. Of course, I'm like, oh, your hair is so beautiful. You should do this. It's like, let me pace this out. Let me see. So, we just connected in such a way where, one of the things I value is that you wanted to make sure that this was something that was right for you. And that took, time. That took time. And once you transitioned, I was there when, you were sending the emails to the station, and you were just concerned about making sure that you were doing this in a way that would also make you happy and still have peace around you, but at the same time, kind of, saying, hey, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. I'm just letting you know this is what I want to do. And I got to witness all of that. Even going to the station for the first time, I'm like, okay, she's about to go natural on TV. This is serious. So being able to experience that moment with you, it was just amazing. And, as we got further into it, you're learning about your hair. And I'm also transitioning out of teaching full time into doing more hair. And the first transition I made was being able to come into a space that you helped me create. And that was my first space. And that first space was awesome. It was a small, little room, but the decor using your creative talents that you also, I would say you, not saying you weren't creative. I feel like it was always in you, but just by returning natural, it was like all this energy that you received. I mean, you were just creating. I mean, every time I looked, Shayla was always making something. Hey, I did this for you, or and that's what it was, just so special. I needed her, she needed me in a way that was unique and peculiar. And just, as I said, hey, this is what I'm gonna do, and I actually got booted out of teaching, literally, because I was following, my heart and going with this passion that I just felt I have when it comes down to helping people embrace their natural hair. Shayla was like, you can kind of get a space. I'm like, no, I can't, Shayla. I can't get there. Now you pushing it now. I know I can do hair. But we're going to get a space. And I remember telling her like, I think I'm going to take a different route. And she's like, you can do this. And so the space that I'm sitting in today is represented by just the creative spirit, just by tapping into that. And she was able to do that. And I mean, I'm in a space, I'm 5 years into this space, and I'm still here. It is original to the core. And I'm just so grateful that you took that leap, right? And I took this leap. So we just codependent upon one another in a way that was just, I want to say, very angelic, very miraculous. I was just me sitting here having this conversation. I'm just grateful, and I'm also just really appreciative of you, Shayla, just for taking the interest and saying, hey, you can do this, believing in me when I didn't even believe in myself. I didn't believe that I could help people actually reach something that they wanted to achieve by hair. Hair, I was natural already, probably 4 or 5 years in. So the fact that it was actually a thing, like, I'm going to wear my hair natural on TV. Of course, to me, that I may have taken that for granted, but someone who is in front of people all day, every day, making sure that this angle's right, that is tucked here, and this isn't a flyaway. I mean, there was a cool to be in collective manner that I was able to do it in, but inside sometimes I would be like, man, I'm wondering if I'm doing this right. But then when I would see her show up on set every day, looking right, like, that was good. I saw you. That that was awesome. And we just during that period was just celebrating. I mean, all of the things that we were doing, and it was just meant to be. I'm just so grateful, Shayla. I really am.
And some of the pictures that I just showed a moment ago, those are pictures of the space and how it transitioned. And for Chantail, what was so funny is I describe myself as kind of the friend that if you have this crazy idea, I'm the one that's like, okay, well, how are we going to do this? More of the how are we going to do this, and less of, I don't know, here are the 15 ways it's not going to work. Let's find the 3 that will, or the 5 that will. And so I remember, and so I remember sitting in Chantel's chair, and that day where she said, I think I'm just, I'm gonna basically downsize her dream. And I looked at her like she was crazy. Like, I literally was like,
looked at me. I didn't even know you could get. I said, oh, I upset Shayla Reaves.
Yes. And so I literally was sitting in her chair. We found the space that she's sitting in now. She was twisting up my hair in the chair, and I was online looking for places. And I found this one because being a first-time business owner, there were certain things that she needed, like, as far as expenses that were included to budget costs and start. And so I found this place and I was like, I don't know, it sounds like it has everything. And the worst thing anyone can tell you is no, and they can't tell you no if you don't ask or don't try. So she called and the lady said, come on over. And Chantail went over, checked out the space. It was a space that I just showed you the pictures of here. And I'll show you the before one more time here so you can kind of see what we're talking about. And I remember her texting me these pictures of this space, when they went out to look at it and decide if this was a space that was going to work. And it looks just like an office space, but with a lot of creativity, a lot of time, and a friend that I found who was brave enough to, not only help me with my hair journey, but to allow me to help create her vision and her dream, which Chantail can articulate what that space, what we hoped it would communicate. But we wanted to create a space where people could go inside, and while you may be outside of the space and everyone in the world might have something to say about the hair that grows out of your head, but when you're in this particular space, you as you are enough. There's an accent wall there towards the back. You can kind of see that behind those pillows. That is a wall with people of all races, shapes, colors, and sizes with curly hair. And then we have all kinds of neat things. It's mostly salvaged and repurposed finds that in my space of creativity that I found when I found the courage to embrace the hair growing out of my head, I just wanted to create and make things. And helping Chantail in that moment was my outlet when I wasn't finding enough creativity in my professional life. So at that time, helping Chantail create her dream also showed me that my creativity stretched beyond the very reason that I got into television. I got into television because I enjoyed creative writing, but just it sounds simple, but it's very complex decision of changing my hair showed me that my creativity goes beyond the bounds that I always try to contain it in. And what I learned about myself in that process is my creativity is bigger than news. If I feel boxed in, I can find another way to grow. If I have a great idea in the morning, I can go to the craft store, buy the supplies, make it real by the end of the day, and no one else can tell me I can't do that. And that's a freedom that I never appreciated for most of my life. And it's a freedom that doesn't exist in news and maybe most professions. There's usually someone you have to answer to at the end of the day. And, just to have and harness and realize the power that is you and really have the courage to see what that journey can bring to light. It was gratifying in a way that I don't even know that I think I'm still struggling even now to fully put into words what that meant. But I do say that I have a different sense of self now, in the sense that I feel I can wear my hair any way now, and my identity and who I am and what I bring to the table isn't diminished in any way because I don't put the same sort of pressure on my hair. So if I wanted to wear extensions or wanted to wear a wig or wanted to do those things, I have a sense of, okay, I know who I am and who I am is enough. And the very simple yet complex journey of embracing the hair that grows out of your head was where my understanding of that really started. Nicole, any of this kind of connecting with you as well?
Oh my gosh. And then some, and then some. When you mentioned creativity, while we talked about these fears, when you've been in your career and you've kind of locked yourself in that this is the way I need to show up, and then you work through the fear of how are going to receive me or see me, and you do work through some interesting responses, some microaggressions. There's some things that you're like, oh boy. But when you stick with the process, one of the things that I found was I actually not only because I celebrated with something. It's like the world had lied to me to be that celebrated. Like it was. I felt like Chantail. Maybe you could reflect on this. I feel like I became like a part of a powerful club of women who were
Yeah.
courageous, and they would just give me this look like yes, like yeah.
Mhm.
And I'd be like, oh, I belong to something really amazing by having this courage. And what I found, Shayla, with the creativity part is that it's like it was like freedom to show up in this most authentic way. And the energy that has come from that has actually drawn opportunities. I can't even barely put words to it. I just know that the one thing I feared, it turned out to be the exact opposite. The way that the world responded was precisely different. It's like, oh wow, like it was just like it said, yes, now here you took that step, and now these opportunities and places and people and the ability to impact, if you will, like it strengthened my impact. It just profound. It changed my entire life to be able to see myself, as you said, Shayla, on it. The hair is not defining me, but just the heart of who I am and what I bring, and letting that light just come right out just in the most authentic way, and the impact that it's had. And
And
so
Nicole,
I can relate. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that your dad was a hairdresser. What was his reaction when you, just 3 years ago, finally decided to embrace your curls?
Kind of like I've been waiting on this, like like, like baby, but he's like, I had to let you get there in your own way, kind of like you were saying, Shayla, you had to be on your own journey, and I stress that we can't compare our journeys. And if you are a woman that's thinking of transitioning into your natural hair, everybody's journey looks different. But I think for my dad, it was kind of like, and my mom, they always told me I had beautiful hair. It's just they needed me to find that for me and to embrace that for me. And I think my mom had a harder time. Like she actually like had tears because she didn't know that I had felt that bad. She said, I know you would cry. She would, when I was little, she'd say, you wouldn't want to go to school when it rained because you had to walk to the bus, and if your hair grew up, you would get, I wouldn't want it to get made fun of that day. And so I think for my mom, it's like for her, it was a very emotional experience to see me stepping into what, who I've always been and who I've always been as her little girl, and finally to be an adult woman just rocking who's always been there the way God made me. I think this is pretty special for both of my parents. So, because my dad tried hard, Chantail, he said, I really don't want to put this perm in here, baby. And I'd be like, but Dad. Anyway.
And speaking to that, I know, Chantail, part of your story for a long time, you did the relaxers too. I did relaxers for a period as well. Tell me your story too.
So I wore a relaxer probably since the age of 7. So, it was like, your hair is too thick. This is what we're going to do. I remember being so excited about wearing my straight hair. And just like many people, it started to get shorter and shorter. It started to break, and it just wasn't as healthy. And I wanted long hair. I would see other girls with long hair, and I started to have this, conception in my head that maybe Black hair doesn't grow. Maybe our hair doesn't. I mean, that's what I thought. So I just kept researching it, and I said, I know it can. Of course, while my hair was relaxed, I'm trying, different things and products. And it wasn't until actually all of my friends in college, I noticed they started going natural. And at first I was like, no way, I'm not going natural because I love my hair. I just wanted to be long. And I would see them, and one by one, they began, just releasing and just saying, hey, I'm just going to wear my hair in its curls. They had me cutting their hair. I was like, what is going on? I'm now cutting. I'm now doing things. And oh, look at me. Yes, that's the classic look. But my hair, I mean, it's always been pretty pretty thick, pretty full. It was always curly. We just didn't know what to do. And remember, we also were little girls during a time when there was like 3 products, right? We had like the Blue Magic, we had pink lotion, and maybe the bergamot grease, right? So it was a different time. So when I became an adult and I'm doing this, I'm thinking, what am I gonna use? That was really the hang up for me. I don't care looks without it. Because every time I would have new growth, it was as if I needed a touch up. Like my new growth was bad. Like there was something wrong with the new growth.
Mhm.
And I remember saying, oh my goodness, do I need a touch up? I remember these conversations. Do you all remember actually sitting and letting it burn as long as it can until,
Yep.
I mean,
Yep,
it was
because
like,
that
leave
minute
it
was
in, let
getting
it get
straight.
straight.
Yes, yes. You just
And
tried, and then it just like it would say, "Don't scratch your hair before you get this
don't
product
scratch
in
and
here."
don't wash it the night before.
Yes.
These were rules, that we had that I grew up having well into adulthood. And, when I had my son, well, I was actually pregnant with him. I was just like, you know what if I have a girl? I didn't know if I was having a girl or boy. And I was just thinking, do I want to relax my hair? Like, this is the time, the pregnancy, you shouldn't put chemicals in your body. So I was kind of forced to. But then I started to love my hair as I noticed it was getting thicker. I was already wearing extensions by this time. My hair was getting thinner and thinner. So just to say, I'm going to let it go, I was concerned. I was like, how is this going to be perceived? And one day I just let it grow and cut the ends off, and I just let it be. And I have never returned. Of course, this is my 4th big child. So there's been some pitfalls along the way. I um, unfortunately had to deal, well, I don't say fortunately because it's actually brought me to this point, but dealing with postpartum hair loss, that was a part of my journey. And I'm still recovering from that, but it's so much better. My son, he's almost 3 now. So my hair is growing back, but returning natural has helped me embrace so many other things because it starts with my hair, then it's like, wait, well, what am I eating then? What kind of food am I putting in my body? Wait, what kind of lotion am I using? I mean, it just opened my mind, kind of like what you were saying, Nicole. You're like, this is a different part of me, or you, Shayla, like, this is me and embracing who I am. That's how I feel. It's very similar. I think most of the fear just comes from other human beings, accepting this that grows out of our head. And once I started to understand that this is just my hair, I don't have it. I don't have a choice. This is what it is. And I learned how to take care of it. That's when it really just hit home and I started helping other people right away. And by helping other people, it really became a lifeline calling. I'm not going to say I would have still been in teaching, but the need for natural hair care, it came at such a time. And I was like, should I do this? Should I do this? And one day it just happened and I have never turned back. I have been doing this for 7 years legally as far as incorporating my business and everything. I've been doing hair for over 25 years. But just to be able to see the emergence of products and now, you see people on TV and they have these curls and you have little kids who are now saying, what is a relaxer? I had a little girl say that. She's like, what is a relaxer? What? You're 12, you don't know what a relaxer, that's a good thing. We're not relying on the chemicals, and it's just beautiful. Now it's a choice. If you want to wear extensions, you can. If you want to, wear your hair braided, you can. It's so much freedom that comes with it.
and and
And
with and with that freedom, Chantel, kind of speaking to that is, in some states now you're seeing the Crown Act getting passed, which
Mhm.
is giving people more freedom in the workplace to be able to wear the hair that grows out of their head, and
Absolutely.
it's protected now.
Absolutely. And that's amazing. And we have some more states to go. There's certain states we're
Mhm.
working on. I am a part of that as well. And what I admire is people are saying, hey, this is the hair that grows out of their hair. Let them wear it, enjoy it. You can't discriminate, based on it. And, it's just a good feeling to live in such a time because our parents didn't live in that time, where that was acceptable. So it's just a lot to celebrate.
And I want to go ahead and share anyone that's watching, if you'd either like to pop up, we'll go ahead and drop the link again. If you would like to pop up, ask a question or participate in the conversation, or if you drop a comment in the comment section there, we can share that on the screen. So yeah, this is a chance for anyone and everyone to participate in this dialogue because it's a journey for all of us individually to get to that space of embracing and the fullness of who we are, the hair that grows out of our head, the most authentic version of ourselves. And it's a process. Some people may get there when they're young, others maybe in their 30s, 40s, or 50s, and that's okay. It's no timeline on a personal journey. It's different for everyone, but you have to sometimes go through life, experience life, and get to the place that that's a decision that you're making for you. It's not someone else making it for you, because it may not be something you're able to stay with or stick with if someone else is making that choice. But if it's coming from you from a place of, hey, I feel this is the right move, the right space, the right time for me, then you'll approach that in a different way because you're tied to and connected to that journey in a different way. Nicole, I know we have been talking about hair, but the journey to authenticity is one that I know you focus on fully with the people that you help through the Inner Beauty Project.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do. And, I think that for, some of us, so we're talking here right now. And yet what I've come to find is that for one person, it may be hair. For another person, it might be weight. For another person, it might be, their education. What I can say is that there's so many external things that as people and as individuals we can allow to really kind of knock us off our authentic journey, because we start to believe that, oh, if I don't look a certain way, or if I don't speak a certain way, or if I that there's all these like external expectations from society. And when I you mentioned my journey with Ebony, and for even beyond Ebony, for many years, my career had me in a space that was very much focused on the external, right, and all of this beauty. And yet, here's what I found: even the most beautiful of beauties were still struggling with self-image, and still struggling with self-esteem, and still not happy with what they already had. And I said, what is happening here? And over time, I just started to go, wait a minute. We got to start doing, we put so much on this external, but we need to start doing the inward work. What's the stuff on the inside? Where do we start to really become one with our birthright that says we are lovable, we are important, we are valuable, we are empowered based on who we are as our own human birthright. And I think that there's just such a need for individuals to step into that authentic space, to recognize, even down to the fact that their past doesn't define them. Often I find the individuals I'm working with, allowing for, past, traumas and things they've been through that actually start to shape who they believe they still are. And it's like, well, no, it's part of our sacred history, but it's not actually what defines our value. And so part of that is also doing that internal healing so that we can be free to live into this authentic self of who we are. And it shows up in many different versions, and yet there's something very universal about it.
And then that is so true. And one thing I wanted to add is, I think a space that you sometimes will find yourself in is, what if the journey to self conflicts with, where you want to grow and how you want to go professionally? an experience that I had was the more myself I became, the opportunities to do the things that I most wanted to do, which at that time was more anchoring, they began to dwindle. And so I'm at this space of, do I continue on this path, embracing who I am, because I'm seeing opportunities doing the thing I want to do diminish? And so you're kind of at a crossroads, and it's that space where you really have to decide, is who I am, how am I going to navigate who I am, and how am I going to navigate accomplishing my dream? And sometimes when you're in that space, you don't really have to compromise. You can do both. And sometimes you have to move to grow, to create the experience that you want to have in your field, to create the life that you want to have. And if you want to have a life living as authentically as possible, embracing the hair that grows out of your head, sometimes you have to move somewhere else or go to a different space where you as you are enough. It doesn't mean you have to give up your dream. It just means you have to find a different route, or create a different path, or go to a different space to get there. But the problem is not with the hair that grows out of your head. That's not the problem. It's the world in which we've tried to fit ourselves and tried to navigate. And you have to decide, at what point am I enough, or is staying in this box worth more? Could you guys kind of talk about that a little bit, Nicole and then Chantail?
Yeah, one of the things I'm really passionate about as well with the work that I do is helping people to not only find purpose, but have the courage to step into it. And I don't truly believe you can do both. I think that there is something about being willing to embrace your own I am enough that is the segue into purpose. It allows you to show up to really fulfill purpose. I think we can have a version of that. And to your point, one of the things that I recognize with purpose is that, you know what, I'm not going to be for everybody, but that is okay. I'm going to be for who I was created to be for. Let me just do my part for whoever that's for. And if we could all get that, I think we could, versus being, like being in this comparison where we're, comparing ourselves to others and so forth. It's like, no, you do you, because the authentic part of who you are is going to allow you to live fully into your purpose, and you're going to be able to touch those that you're called to. We don't have to be called to everybody. For the space where you will be accepted, that's what I made. I had made a decision. I said, you know what? This is what we're going to do. I may not be accepted in some doors or some spaces, but guess what? That is all right with me, because the ones that I am, the ones that invite me in that see that I am enough just as I show up, well, those are the ones that I'm meant to be in. And I'm okay with that. And willing to just find that space. And it's willing to lose, or should I say surrender for us? It's all good.
And it's a really vulnerable space to be in, because when you're making that decision to change your hair or embrace the hair that grows out of your head, that in the face of what you may be dealing with externally, it's a very vulnerable space to be in, but to still stay committed to the journey of authenticity, even when, externally you may be getting, feedback that's negative, or feedback that's not supporting more of you coming out of your shell. That's almost the most important time to stay on the journey that I found. Because that's the space where it's like, can I really stand in this space? Can I really stand in this moment and embrace the person that I am and be okay with her, even if who she is and all the fullness of her is not okay with the world? And that's a really scary and vulnerable place to be. And I know, Nicole, you can probably speak to that from, working in modeling and for the Fashion Fair and all of your work. so much of it is like you have to have a certain look, and it takes a level of courage to be in that space where maybe not everybody is responding the way that you do or that you hope they do to your change or to your hair, to still stay that course when it feels most daunting and it may be easier to do something else. That's the moment where you really have to stand in your truth, would you say?
I'd say you have to stand in the truth, and it's like you draw the line and you have to stand in it. And there's something very powerful you do. It's almost hard to put the words. Once you've done it, you just know even when it's hard, even when you don't. And here's the thing that I found that's helped in my journey and part in a lot of the acceptance for places. It makes it a lot easier to stand in your truth, even or you know, oh, the most important part of who I am is in here, and that if I know that that's where the nation comes from, then I can stand because the external spaces and places and people and the false expectations, they don't land the same when you no longer.
Right. And Chantel, can you add a little bit to what Nicole is saying? Just your perspective on all of this. If you can hear me, can you guys hear me? Nicole and Chantel, can you all
Yeah.
still hear me? Okay. Chantel, can you hear
I can
me?
still hear you.
Oh, yes, I'm back. I went out for
Okay.
a minute.
I was going to ask you, Chantel, what can you add to some of kind of what we're talking about? I know you probably get some of these stories and these fears and these anxieties in your seat, because as we call you the hair therapist, online hair therapist, hair is really therapy. When you're sitting in that chair, you not only are doing someone's hair, but you are learning about their life, learning about their worries, about their stories. What can you say here?
So much. So, as far as people sitting in my chair, definitely being a support to them, it was something that I thought about doing, but to actually do it in a safe space, most salons are not set up in the way that I envisioned it. So, when we talk about being vulnerable and stepping out on a ledge here, it was scary just to even think who's going to really pay me to do hair, natural hair. You know, I was thinking, well, everybody's supposed to know how to do their natural hair, but that's not necessarily the case. So as people are sitting in my chair and they're getting these services, I'm teaching them how to style, what products to use, for their specific hair texture and type. It is not a one size fit all approach. So I have to approach it from a very unique angle. Every client is different. Every situation is different. So that in itself was just new to me. When I went to cosmetology school, they don't teach you necessarily, they don't prepare you for doing natural hair. Now I think the programs around the country are getting the message that we're not going anywhere. Like, this is here to stay. But, 2009, 2010, not so much. It was very much new. So as I'm stepping also into a new career, so to speak, I'm doing this full time. I'm thinking, well, do I really have the support of my community to continue doing this? If people, you know, are doing their natural hair at home, will they need me? There's just so many things that I was thinking about. And in the industry, will I be accepted? Will I be accepted because I'm telling people, hey, you don't need a relaxer. That was a big no-no. It was like relaxers ruled literally the salons. And now it's completely opposite in many regards. I mean, think about it. When you go down the ethnic line at your local Walmart or Target, you don't see relaxers anymore like you used to. You're seeing products. So people are getting the message out there. And just to be able to be a part of that history, with that, it just brings me so much honor. Being able to stand in your shoes as far as, okay, do I do this in my profession? It's kind of different, but it's almost the same of what I've had to do in a sense. I've had to say, am I going to be a different stylist? I'm now a natural stylist. That is a niche that was almost completely untapped. So just to be able to see the needs and help people navigate through them, and everybody's story, I promise you, is so different. And whether it's, hey, I want to do this in the next 2 months, or I'm just here, I just want to talk about it. I have people that have booked consults with me just to talk about it. They have cried in my chair. I don't know what to do with my hair, but I know I don't want to go back to a relaxer, or I might need to go back to a relaxer for the time being, and then I can address it later. And you know what? And with whatever they choose, my job is to be supportive, and my job is just to keep reminding people how awesome they are. And that's what I have made my life career. So whereas Nicole, you're doing the inner beauty project, I'm literally doing this from a chair, and people are, saying to me, wow, because I sat here, this is therapy. That's why the name of my LLC is Classic Care Therapy. It really is. And I'm also now discovering that, people are having such an array of topics that we kind of didn't talk about in the salon. You just went to get your hair done. You sat down, the stylist did their job, and that was it. If you liked it, you might say something, you might not. It was just about the style. But now it's not just about the style. It's about, is my hair thriving? Is it growing? Now with the emergence of technology, people are able to click a button and figure out, well, this is good for this. Did she do that? So stylists all around the country are having to change the way they do things. We've sparked something so big we don't even realize how big it is. And I hear the talk because I go to the hair shows and I sit amongst other stylists, and they're trying to figure it out for themselves. They're like, wait, so if I'm not doing this anymore, then what do I replace it with? So part of my new responsibility is also being able to educate. And so it's really interesting how I feel God was able to bring me back to teaching, throughout all of it. I'm now teaching in my chair, and I'm teaching stylists, what they need to do in order to help their clients that have now stepped into it. So it's just so beautiful, just to be able to see all of the dynamics that we all are talking about, all coming full circle off of one topic. It's
And I,
really cool.
and I think one of the most incredible things about our individual stories, the more ourselves we became, the more we
Mhm.
wanted to share and give of that authentic self to those around us. I don't know if that's by design, but that sort of seems like a thread or a trend, and I don't know if it's just becoming more of who we are, maybe who we are at our core. Us three are giving people that just like to help, and then connecting more to the fullness of who we are, which that embrace includes embracing the hair that grows out of our
Yeah.
head. It made us want to be more of that person in the world, which may be a
Mhm.
person who loves to help, loves to make a difference in the lives of those around us. Nicole?
Yes, and I believe that's true. I believe that every the world needs who we're created to be. And I really believe that the most powerful version is the version of just being our most authentic selves. I believe that that is where we will make the biggest impact, when we find the courage to show up in that. And I believe that it's also something very profound happening with the movement, as you called it, Chantel, because this is history. This is decades of being where our hair was less than celebrated as something that was beautiful. And so we're not just overcoming like individual, if you will, freedom. I think there's something happening in a much bigger space and place in our history. And
Mhm.
we're representing that. And there's something about that that is really profound. And to your point, it's causing the trajectory of hair care to have to shift. Because, like you said, it ain't going anywhere. And as you were sharing, Chantail, I was having flashbacks of clients that would come to my father's salon. My dad also was one of the first to teach black hair care in the Twin Cities. But women and men would come especially women would come to his shop, and their hair would be literally like ruined because they would have went to salons that didn't know how to do our hair, if you will. And they'd be like, help, what do I do? Their hair was falling, and just different things. And my father, really became quite known for like the care of the hair, not just, to your point, the style. And I just want to commend you, because to think that, you are now positioned, like the teaching that you're called to do, you're now doing the best version of your teaching in this lane. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing what you just shared, how that's bringing you fully into that purpose.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. I receive that. I really do. Yes.
Well,
And, I want to say this too. The most beautiful thing that I have seen throughout all of it is when I see parents taking the time. I have had so many dads come in and take my classes. I've had people that they don't have curly hair themselves, but they have said, I am going to take the time to make sure my child, whether my child by birth or way of adoption, knows how to take care of their hair. And I teach these, families how to do that. And it just brings me so much joy, because we are changing the way we are perceived, like you said, for decades, to come. And it just gives me chills. I mean, it really does.
Well, I am so thrilled to share this space with both of you. Thank you for giving of your time tonight. And I want to invite anyone, if you have any questions or any comments, certainly leave them below. And I'll go ahead and pop this up on the screen here. If you are on Instagram, you can follow both Nicole, Chantail, and myself. I've been running the information at the bottom of the screen, but there's our social media platforms. I'm at Shayla Reaves TV on Instagram. Chantail is the online hair therapist, and Nicole is at Nicole Pillow. So if you have any questions, or maybe you're a little shy and didn't want to ask in this space, that's okay. We just want to create space so that people can hear experiences that may sound or resonate with where they are in their life. Or maybe, you hear something that pushes you forward in your own personal journey. The whole idea behind Let's Chat is to create that space so that you don't have to feel alone, and you can hear the stories and experiences of others that have maybe been where you are, or maybe are in a phase of life that you might be headed in, and maybe hear something in one of these sessions that pushes you forward in your personal journey. So thank you so much, Chantail. Thank you, Nicole. And thank all of you who tuned in for this special chat, Embracing the Journey Natural Hair. Of course, if you go into the description box for this video, you will see a playlist, and that playlist has the chats that have occurred before this one, and then you can also see a list of the chats that are coming up. And I'm adding new ones all the time, but we will be meeting pretty much weekly every Friday from 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. And my goal is to keep this going at least for a year and see where this journey leads. So please leave me any feedback you might have. If this is helpful for you, if you learned something that resonated, please share your feedback and comments. It helps me decide, maybe we do more topics of this nature, or maybe there's something that we're not tackling that might be beneficial. I want to hear from you and hopefully create a space where we all can grow. So with that, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.